Why did Nietzsche say the price of becoming your true self is being exiled by those who once claimed to love you? Have you ever truly noticed that when you start to change, for real, the people around you somehow begin to feel uncomfortable? They don't speak openly, of course. They'll often disguise it with jokes, with advice masked as concern, or with that awkward silence when you talk about something deeper. But deep down, what's really happening is simple. Your inner growth, your mental evolution, threatens their comfort zone. And no one likes to be forced to confront their own complacency. Have you felt that shift, that invisible tension in the room when you begin to wake up? Perhaps you are going through exactly this right now. You started to think differently, act differently, maybe even question things you once accepted without a second thought. And suddenly, you began to feel alone, misunderstood, judged. What no one told you, and what Nietzsche understood with clarity better than anyone else, is that this is the price of building a strong mind. Not just any kind of strength, but a strength so intense, so real, that it makes others uncomfortable. It scares them. It exposes, without saying a word, the weakness of those who still live on autopilot. But ask yourself, what scares them more? Your words, or the silence that comes after them? Why does this happen? Because a truly powerful mind is a threat to collective mediocrity. And Nietzsche was clear about this. When you decide to think for yourself, create your own values, and abandon the comfortable illusion of ready-made truths, you become dangerous. Dangerous to the system, dangerous to others, and most importantly, dangerous to your former self. This video is a call, a challenge. It's not made for those who are comfortable, nor for those who want easy answers. It's made for you, who is tired of being a hostage to your own insecurities, who feels on the brink of an internal rupture, and who is ready to build something that no one can destroy. A mind that no one can manipulate. A mind that terrifies because it does not bend. Are you ready to meet the part of yourself you've been avoiding? So, if you feel ready for this path, a lonely, tough, but absolutely transformative path, stay. Because what Nietzsche has to teach you will confront you, but it can also set you free. And after this, you will never think the same way again. And if you're still here, maybe something inside you is already shifting. Maybe you're not just listening. You're recognizing a part of yourself in every word. So tell us, where are you watching from? Let it be known in the comments. You're not alone on this road. And if this journey touches something real in you, subscribe and stay close. Thank you for your support. Nietzsche was not just a philosopher, he was a surgeon of the human soul. Someone who had the courage to look directly into the abyss of existence, and not only face it, but willingly dive into it. And it is exactly in that abyss, in that inner chaos that so many people spend their lives avoiding, that he found the hidden source of true strength. Because for Nietzsche, it is not in peace, not in stability, not in order that a human being transforms. It is in pain. It is in the fall. It is in chaos. He wrote, "You need to have a chaos inside you to give birth to a dancing star." This is not a poetic metaphor. It is a form of psychological diagnosis. It means that if you want to build an unshakable mind, you need to abandon the childish idea that it will happen through comfort, through cheap motivation, or through shallow positive affirmations. Isn't that what we've been taught? That feeling better is the goal, rather than becoming stronger. But the truth is, real strength is born when you face suffering without fleeing. When you stop asking for life to be easier, and start wishing for yourself to be stronger. Think of the times you grew the most. Was it when everything was fine? Or was it when you were shattered, directionless, broken, forced to rebuild yourself from the ground up, using nothing but your own hands and will? Nietzsche believed that suffering was not a mistake of existence, but rather its main driving force. He did not romanticize pain. He faced it, used it, respected it as a tool. And if you can change your relationship with pain, with failure, with loneliness, then you begin to shape something incredibly rare. An indomitable spirit. And it is precisely there, in that inner reshaping, that the world begins to feel disturbed by you. Because while most flee from chaos, you will learn to walk calmly within it. While others beg for normality, you will quietly begin creating greatness. But this kind of transformation requires something brutal, a violent break with everything you were ever taught about strength. Being strong is not about smiling all the time. It's not about having fake emotional control or pretending nothing touches you. Being strong is being able to sit in the dark, in the unbearable, and still come out the other side sharper, colder, and more dangerous. But Nietzsche knew something else. Chaos by itself is not enough. You can be destroyed by it if you don't have an inner center, an anchor. And that is why in the next part, we will explore the most decisive moment of Nietzschean philosophy, when he kills God, and places upon you the full weight of existential responsibility. Because when there is no longer a sky to look up to, where do you look? It is within you that the universe must be born. When Nietzsche declared, "God is dead," he was not celebrating. He was issuing a warning that many still don't understand today. What he killed was not a divine figure in itself. He killed the illusion. The illusion that there is a higher authority taking care of everything. The illusion that there is a plan, a pre-established meaning, a purpose given by someone from the outside. The death of God is the end of any excuse, and that is terrifying. Because up until then, it was easy to outsource the responsibility for your life. It was comforting to believe that everything happens for a reason, that your suffering is part of some divine blueprint, that there is a greater good that will justify it all, eventually. Nietzsche violently tears that veil away. He looks you in the face and says, "You are alone. There is no ready-made meaning. There is no map, no script, no savior, just you. Now you are the creator, and this is where the true construction of a powerful mind begins. Because most people collapse when they realize they are alone in the face of chaos, without a manual, without guarantees, and with no one to blame. But those who have the courage to face this without crumbling, they begin to forge an unshakable consciousness. With the death of God, Nietzsche pushes you into the abyss of radical freedom. You should not follow commandments. You must create values. You should not obey. You must surpass yourself. It is the birth of brutal autonomy, and along with it comes the weight. Everything now depends on you. There is no more absolution. There is no more salvation. Either you build yourself or you sink. But here is the secret. This very freedom that frightens you, that shakes your foundation, is also the greatest source of power you will ever possess. When you truly understand deep in your bones that no one is coming to save you, something within awakens. A fire that compels you to rise even while bleeding. A force that drives you to think for yourself, to feel for yourself, to act. Not because someone said it's right, but because you decided it is. It's a shift that can feel like a storm inside. But it's also the beginning of clarity. It is in this rupture, this tearing away from existential crutches, that Nietzsche prepares the ground for something even more grandiose. The emergence of a new way of being. A type of human being who does not live by the rules of the herd. Who does not need approval or permission. A being who creates their own morality. Who surpasses their own limits. And who lives unapologetically as a creator. A being that frightens the weak, not because they are cruel, but because their presence forces others to confront themselves. Honestly, painfully. This being has a name. Nietzsche called it the Übermensch, the overman. Pause here for a moment. Have you ever had to stand alone with a choice that no one understood, but you knew was yours to make? If yes, share it in the comments. Was it a moment of pain, of power, or both? And if you're still in that moment, what are you choosing today? And it is about him, the Übermensch, that we will talk now. Because if you want to build a mind so strong that no one can break it, you need to understand how to become this figure, who lives above conventions, guided only by their own will to power. Let's dive into this. Nietzsche did not believe in slow, passive evolution. He believed in rupture, in radical transformation, in creative destruction. That's why he conceived the idea of the Übermensch. It's not about a superhero. It's not someone with mystical powers. The Übermensch is a being who has overcome everything that binds the ordinary man: guilt, obedience, herd morality, the need for acceptance. The Übermensch does not seek to be accepted. He does not ask for permission to exist. He creates his own internal laws and lives by them, even if that puts him against the entire world. And that is exactly why his mind becomes unbreakable. Because it is not built on the expectations of others. It does not need external approval to validate itself. It is self-sufficient. It feeds on its own will to power, the deep impulse to shape reality in its own image. This is the central point. The Übermensch does not adapt to the world. He imposes meaning on the world. He does not seek comfort, he seeks greatness. He does not ask, is this allowed? He asks, is this worthy of me? And this shift in perspective changes everything. Because when you start to see yourself as a creator, not a servant, the way you think, act, and feel transforms completely. But here lies the problem. Becoming this kind of being requires sacrifice. You will have to kill the parts of yourself that still beg for approval. You will have to face the pain of not belonging. You will have to bear the weight of building your identity from the ground up, without guarantees, without pats on the back, without applause from the audience. And most people cannot handle it. They give up before they even begin. They run, sometimes without even realizing, back to the safety of ready-made beliefs, dogmas, and rules written by someone else, for someone else. The path to becoming the Übermensch is lonely. And Nietzsche knew this all too well. He himself lived on the margins, misunderstood, called mad, isolated from the very world he was trying to liberate. But it was in that isolation, not despite it but because of it, that he found his freedom. And this is what you need to understand. The stronger your mind becomes, the more you will feel yourself drifting away. The higher you rise, the more you disturb. Because the construction of the Übermensch is not a gentle or gradual process. It is brutal. It is transformative. It will demand everything. It requires you to destroy everything that is not truly yours. Everything that has been imposed upon you by a sick culture, by a society that rewards obedience and punishes authenticity. And only after that destruction, only after the fire, can you begin to build. But this construction, this sacred work, does not happen in public. It does not happen in the crowd. It happens in silence, in retreat, in the kind of deep solitude that separates the strong from the weak. And that is why, in the next part, we will dive into one of the most neglected and yet most powerful aspects of this entire journey: the solitude of the strong. Because the truth is simple. To become unshakable, you will have to learn to walk alone. And few are ready for that. If there's something no one tells you about the path of mental strength, it's this. The stronger you become, the more lonely you feel. And it's not because you chose to isolate yourself. It's because the world no longer knows what to do with you. Nietzsche spoke clearly about this. The free spirit. The one who breaks away from common morality, who refuses easy truths, who dares to think for themselves, inevitably distances themselves from the herd. And that distancing hurts. But that pain is necessary, because real growth requires space, and you cannot grow while staying tied to the expectations of others. Most people live inside an invisible herd, where every thought is policed, where every action is measured by someone else's reaction. You've gotten used to walking in a group, thinking like the group, feeling secure because people are around you. But what Nietzsche proposes is the opposite. He tears you away from that comfort and throws you into the desert. And in that desert, there are no applause, no praise, no guide. There's only you, your doubts, your traumas, your fears, your desire to give up. And that's where the real test begins. Because what will most people do? They'll run back. They'll hide again behind their masks. They'll pretend they don't feel, don't think, don't see. But you, if you truly want to become someone that no one can break, will have to stay. You will have to endure the silence that reveals who you really are. Nietzsche said, The individual must always struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try, you will often feel lonely and sometimes scared, but no price is too high to pay for possessing yourself. That is the essence, the possession of oneself, the rarest and most powerful achievement anyone can attain. Because when you truly possess yourself, no one else can control you. No one else dictates your worth, and no one else can bring you down. But this possession comes with the weight of loneliness. You will lose people, you will be misunderstood. You will hear that you are arrogant, strange, distant. They will try to pull you back into the mold. They will call you crazy, cold, insensitive. But that is the price of not being domesticated. It is the price of not needing applause. It is the price of not living as a mirror for others' needs. And here is the raw truth. If you cannot sit with your own loneliness, if you cannot hold yourself through it, then you are not ready for freedom. Because all real freedom, the kind that cannot be taken away, comes with abandonment. Abandonment of emotional crutches, abandonment of comfortable illusions, abandonment of utilitarian friendships that only exist to reinforce your comfort, not your truth. That's why Nietzsche saw solitude not as isolation, but as a privilege. A battlefield, yes, but also the place where the true self finally has room to breathe, to speak, to emerge. But this free mind, this elevated spirit, does not simply walk alone. It begins to perceive the world differently, to see what others do not see, perhaps cannot bear to see. And with that vision comes the second inevitable consequence: confrontation with mediocrity. Because when you start becoming strong, truly strong, mediocrity does not remain passive. It senses you, and it responds. And that is exactly what we will talk about next, the danger of collective mediocrity. Because the world doesn't pursue those who blend in. It pursues those who dare to stand out. Nietzsche did not fear tyrants. He did not tremble before authoritarian rulers or visible oppressors. What he feared, and denounced with philosophical fury, was something quieter, more corrosive, the subtle power of collective mediocrity. That invisible system that keeps everyone leveled down, that punishes anyone who dares to think differently, that rewards obedience, that disguises cowardice as virtue. True tyranny, Nietzsche wrote, does not descend from above. It comes from the sides, from the crowd, from the people who want you to remain small, not out of hate, but out of refusal to grow. And that's exactly what happens when you begin to rise. Your mind becomes sharper, your spirit firmer, your presence heavier. You begin to disturb, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're doing something rare. You are breaking the mold. And society despises those who break molds. Collective mediocrity cannot tolerate individual brilliance, because that brilliance shines a light on the dullness of ordinary existence. Nietzsche called this phenomenon slave morality, a moral code constructed by those who, unable to reach greatness, chose instead to redefine what greatness means. They turned strength into arrogance, ambition into selfishness, independence into coldness. And with that inversion, they created a value system that protects the weak and condemns the strong. But don't be mistaken, this is not compassion, it is resentment. Because the weak do not actually want to be saved. They want the strong to be dismantled. That is why when you begin to liberate yourself, they begin to attack. Sometimes overtly, sometimes with subtlety, with silence, with irony, with carefully measured glances. But the message remains the same. Go back to the group. You are making us feel small. And what hurts most is that you never tried to. You were just being who you are. Nietzsche understood. Most people live in a state of quiet, paralyzing conformity. An existence shaped by fear, by guilt, by obedience. And anyone who disrupts that balance becomes a threat. But don't be fooled. Mediocrity does not attack with weapons. It attacks with numbers, with consensus, with repetition. It will try to make you question your very core. It will convince you that you are wrong, simply because you don't belong. It will use every tool at its disposal, from shame to exclusion, to make you lower your head. And it is in that precise moment that many walk away, because they cannot stand being the strange one, the difficult one, the arrogant one. But Nietzsche would call you something else, necessary. Because while the world spins endlessly around recycled ideas, manufactured desires, and comfortable truths, it's the strong individual who brings the discomfort no one asks for, but everyone needs, for something new to begin. Your difference is what lights the fire of transformation, but it's also what makes you the first target of resistance. Being strong, thinking freely, living without waiting for permission. It's not just courage, it's a quiet war against the weight of collective mediocrity. And like any war, it doesn't ask for your opinion. It demands your preparation. It demands weapons. Not the kind made of steel, but the ones made of thought, clarity, silence. Mental weapons. Because the cost of becoming unbreakable is high. But the reward, it's yours alone, and no one can touch it. If you've made it this far, you're already different. Most people check out the moment a truth hits too close. They turn off the discomfort. They walk away from the mirror. But not you. You stayed. And that means something. Because this was never about ego. It's about breaking illusion. The comfortable kind that keeps people asleep. Building a mind so strong that it becomes feared isn't just a choice. It's a renunciation. You will lose. You'll lose friendships built on pleasing. You'll lose spaces where silence was expected. You'll lose the ability to pretend you're fine with just enough. But you'll gain something more precious than comfort. You'll gain clarity, integrity, the kind of presence that doesn't beg to be understood, because it already knows where it stands. And soon, you'll see it. How most people move through life half asleep. And your lucidity unsettles them. Your firmness makes them tremble. Your absence becomes louder than the noise around them. This strength doesn't come from outside. It doesn't come from self-help books. It's not gifted through affirmations or quotes. It's dug out of your soul, in quiet hours, in private battles, in moments no one ever applauds. It's the result of an inner war between who you've been and who you're becoming. And this war has no final victory, because the truly strong aren't the ones who finished fighting. They're the ones who keep going, even when they could stop. Nietzsche never cared to make followers. He came to trigger earthquakes. He wanted you to stop crawling for approval, to stop begging for meaning, to stop settling for what someone else built, and start creating from the only place that matters, your own awareness. He wanted you to become dangerous, not in a loud way, but in a rare way, so rare that your mere existence forces others to confront what they've been avoiding. So here's something real. If there's a truth you're tired of hiding, something you've carried in silence, now's a good moment to let it breathe. Drop it in the comments. Just 3 words. I choose myself. And if something in this video made sense to you, go ahead and hit like or share it with someone you trust. If this spoke to something real in you, subscribe and stay close. This space was made for minds that question, not just follow. And if you're still walking this path, there are more videos waiting. Each one opens a different door, but they all lead in the same direction. Keep going, we're just getting started. Thanks for being here. See you in the next one.